Hey, this is Mad Movie Mark, another Mad Movie Mark movie review. Thank you for joining me as I review the 1941 comedy drama Sullivan's Travels.
Who wants to see that kind of stuff? It gives me the creeps.
Hey, I think there's going to be a lot of people who are going to want to watch this review. I am reviewing all the movies that have 100% fresh rating on Rotten Tomatoes. I'm giving them all a score of 1 to 10. After I watch them and score them all, I will rank them from worst to best. I started in the 1920 silent movie era, and now I'm at 1941 with Sullivan's Travels. So this movie, like all the movies, will have 100% fresh rating from the critics on Rotten Tomatoes and a 90% fresh rating from the audience. So that is actually a pretty high score from the audience. It stars Joel McCrea as John Sullivan and Veronica Lake as the girl. So apparently all their time and effort went into the script, went into the story, and then at the end of that they decided, oh wait, we don't have a name for this person. What's her name? Oh, I'll just call her the girl. So her name is the girl. This is the first movie I've ever seen with Joel McCrea, and also the first movie I've ever seen with Veronica Lake. And in fact, until I started doing this list, this is one of the many, many movies on this Rotten Tomatoes list that I've never heard of before. So it's nice to watch movies that are very good that I've never heard of before, because sometimes I feel like I'm just out of really good movies. This movie starts with Joel McCrea as John Sullivan. He is a big-time movie producer. He produces comedies such as Ants in Your Pants, and they do really well for his company. And they continuously give him more and more comedies to make because all of his comedies are gold mines. But he decides that he doesn't want to do any more comedies. He wants to do a big drama theatrical movie that he says, I want to do a Brother, Oh Brother, Where Art Thou, which is a movie. It's a really good movie. But he says, I want to do a drama. There's a lot of pain and anger and hurt in our country. This is supposed to be, I believe, right after the Great Depression. And he says, I'm tired of making these comedies because the real people out in the streets, they have nothing to laugh about. They live terrible, horrible lives. There's a bunch of famine going on. And people want to watch movies about what's affecting them in real life. And the studio heads, of course, say, no, you can't do this. The movies you make they strike gold. Why would you want to do something out of your wheelhouse?
I can take it in the chin. I've taken it before.
Not from me, you haven't.
Not from you, Sully, that's true. Not with pictures like So Long, Sarong, Hey Hey in the Hayloft, Ants in Your Plants of 1939, but they weren't about tramps, and lockouts, sweatshops, people eating garbage in alleys, and living in piano boxes and ash cans and
Foy.
They're about nice, clean young people who fell in.
You've never been poor before. You've been rich your whole life. You don't know what these people are going through. Your movie's going to flop because it's just going to be like you're making fun of them. And then he realizes, okay, yes, you're right. Maybe I haven't thought this all the way through. So I'm coming up with a plan where I'm going to leave for, I don't know, maybe a week, maybe 3 weeks, maybe a couple months. I'm going to live amongst the poor people and see what their plight is like and see how terrible their lives are. That way, when I make this movie, I know exactly what I'm going for and I know exactly what I'm shooting for. And this is going to be one of the greatest dramas of all time. And of course, they're still against it because their fear is that he's going to go away for months. He's not going to be an active producer of movies, and he's going to be gone for a long time just to come back and make a flop. So they do everything they can to try to persuade him to not make this movie. We also learned that he's married. It is a marriage that he was kind of coerced into because he was told that if he got married, that it would be better for his taxes and be better for his finances, but he's married to someone who really just bleeds him of his money. And from what I could tell, they don't really have a personal relationship with each other. They never see each other. She calls him on the phone when he gets paid and asks if he sent her part of the check yet. So it seems like they're just married out of convenience, and he doesn't really like the marriage. So he decides he's going to do this, and then their butler comes in, and his butler says, I wouldn't do this either. I think that your crew is right, because these people who are homeless and who are downtrodden, they're just going to think that you're making fun of them, and they're not going to be very kind to you. They're going to treat you poorly. They're going to see through your facade because you're obviously not downtrodden. Even if you try to look downtrodden, it's not going to work. And this is just a bad idea. You don't want to poke fun at these people.
I'm going out on the road to find out what it's like to be poor and needy, and then I'm going to make a picture about
If you'll
it.
permit me to say so, sir, the subject is not an interesting one. The poor know all about poverty, and only the morbid rich would find the topic glamorous.
But I'm doing it for the poor. Don't you
I
understand?
doubt if they would appreciate it, sir. They rather resent the invasion of their privacy.
And he says, "Oh, well, I thank you for your words and for your concerns, but this is something I really feel like I have to do." So he goes off and he tries to live amongst the poor people, but his crew ends up following him in a camper. And he goes on this like wild chase where he gets into a car with a little kid. He has like a little soapbox car with a motor on it. And he says, "How fast can this car go?" And he goes, "Really fast, mister." So he says, "Okay, go." And then he goes, and then the like camper that they're following him with his crew, it's like one of these generic comic scenes where, you know, there's a chef and he's being tumbled around in the camper and like all the food's going everywhere. And then everyone else in the camper, since the camper's going fast and driving erratically, everything's kind of messed up and going everywhere. And when he stops, he says, "Look, guys, I understand what you're doing. I understand you're trying to protect me, but this movie is not going to be made, it's not going to be a genuine movie if you guys are following me in a camper trying to make sure that I'm okay. So here's a plan. Why don't you guys go to Las Vegas? I'll do what I have to do, and then we'll meet in Las Vegas later on. And if I don't meet you there, you know something's wrong, you know something's is up with me, and then you can search for me then. But at least give me a chance to do what I want to do." So they say, yeah, they agree to it. I mean, Las Vegas is not what it is now. It's just kind of like a desert. I'm assuming they only show like one building in Las Vegas, but it's like a desert with a couple like small, little places. It's not the big casinos that it is today. But they say, sure, yeah, that sounds like a good plan. We will go off to Vegas. We will meet you. So he goes to a diner and he meets this girl, Veronica Lake, and she sees that he's kind of wearing tattered clothes. And she says, I'm going to buy you some ham and eggs.
They locked me out of my room.
That's too bad. Well, things are tough everywhere. War in Europe, strikes over here, there's no work, there's no food.
Drink your coffee while it's hot.
He says, "Oh, that's really nice of you. You don't really have to do that." But she does it anyway, and then she goes on this speech about how she's this person. She's a person who's trying to break into the acting world, but she hasn't had very good, luck with it yet. And he says, "Oh well, I can get you in the game if you want. I'm a big time producer." And she says, "Yeah, okay, sure you are. Like you're wearing tattered clothes. Like you're not a producer." So then he ends up offering her a ride home because she doesn't drive. And when he drives her back to his mansion. And she says, "Oh, look, yeah, you are filthy rich."
Where's the swimming pool? You must have a swimming pool.
Right out here. Outside dining room, barbecue.
Like, "What are you doing? Why are you looking like you're homeless?" And he basically tells her the story of what he wants to do. And she says, "Well, that sounds really good. I want to come with you." He says, "You don't want to come with me. This is going to be dirty. This is going to be a terrible experience. This isn't something that's going to be fun." And she says, "No, that's fine. I want to go with you. Like, you have to take me. You have no choice." So she ends up going with him. They end up in this like homeless camp where their shoes are stolen, and it's I guess it's not very. I don't think it's a very good example of. It's like a homeless town, I guess. They sleep there for one night, and then they end up catching a ride on a train. And when they're on this train, John says, what do you think of, there's two other tramps on the train, two other homeless people. And he says, what do you think of the labor situation? And they get him to walk away because no, obviously this guy is like someone who's pretending to be something he's not. I'm assuming that if you're really homeless, the biggest topic of conversation is, what do you think? It's not, what do you think of the labor situation?
How do you feel about the labor situation?
Oh, where are you going?
So he pretty much gives himself away right there. He ends up catching a cold, a pretty bad cold. So they go back to civilization where he is nursed back to health. And then he's like, you know, I've had enough with this. No one's following me anymore. I'm going to go do this on my own. I'm just going to walk away and not tell anyone. So he basically goes off on his own.
But nothing is going to stop me. I'm going to find out how it feels to be in trouble. Without friends, without credit, without checkbook, without name. Alone.
To try to live this homeless life. And his plan at that time also is to go around and all the people that he lived with at this homeless camp, he's going to give them each like $5 or something to kind of thank them for the experience that he had. But he doesn't say anything. He just like gives away money to the people in this homeless camp. And then someone sees him doing this. One of the homeless people sees him giving away money, and he thinks that this is a great opportunity to like bonk him over the head and take all of the money he's giving away. So he meets him in a dark alley. He bonks John Sullivan over the head, takes all of his money. And then John Sullivan kind of wakes up the next day near like this train station where you're not supposed to be. There's a specific rule where if you're jumping on trains, you don't go to this like train station because you'll get arrested. So he's met by a cop, and you know, the cop kind of runs him in because he's still hurting. His head is still hurting. He kind of is woozy. He doesn't really remember who he is. And then the cop brings him in, and then he gets sentenced to like prison because he got in a fight with the cop, and he ends up getting sentenced to this like prison camp. And when he gets to the prison camp, so during the trial, he doesn't remember who he is either. He kind of is woozy. And when he gets to the prison camp, he finally remembers who he is. He says, "You guys can't do this to me. I'm this big producer. I didn't hurt anyone. It's all a mistake. Someone hit me over the head. I couldn't remember who I was. This is all a terrible mistake." And of course, they don't believe him, and they treat prisoners very poorly who like talk back or actually who try to do anything outside of just, you know, what they want them to do, daily work and go to sleep, you know, stuff like that. If you try to talk out of turn, you get put in like the hole, which is sort of like solitary confinement type of thing. So he ends up getting put in the hole a couple times, and then he's working with this other guy who's like on the chain gang. He's like a really nice person. He feels for the prisoners, but he also really has no say over anything. So if someone's like, one of the prisoners are getting beat or something, he has no say over that. He's reading a newspaper, and John Sullivan sees a newspaper, and John Sullivan's picture is there, and it says like famed producer feared dead because he can't be found. So John Sullivan says, "I need to get out of here. What is one way I can get my name in the papers so that people can see that I'm alive and who I am?" And then he decides, you know what? I have an idea. I'm going to say that I killed John Sullivan, that I was his murderer. And then people will see me in the newspaper, my public, my people, and they'll be like, "Hey, that's John Sullivan. He's still alive." So he tells the people in the prison that he killed John Sullivan.
This has got me.
You're going to get yourself
I want to
in trouble.
confess to the murder of John L. Sullivan.
You're going to get yourself
I
in trouble.
killed John L. Sullivan.
Wait a minute, Willie. You're going to
I
get
murdered
yourself in
John
trouble.
L. Sullivan.
I'm telling you, you're doing the wrong thing.
I'm a murderer.
Will you listen to me before
I
somebody...
killed John L. Sullivan.
Come back here. Don't you understand the name?
And that he is the one to blame, and then his name gets in the paper, and then he gets back. They realize who he is. They let him go. He gets back to civilization, and then he basically meets back up with Veronica Lake's character, and then I believe they get married at the end, or they end up together because his wife left him when she thought he was dead. So they end up getting together. And there's actually one very crucial part in the movie, which I forgot. So when he's in prison, they end up going to watch a movie, and it's like a Mickey Mouse type movie. And all the prisoners are laughing and having a really great time at this movie. And he starts to realize, these people who are in prison, getting beat every day, they're having a very hard life. They just want to laugh. They come to this movie. This is something they look forward to every week, and they just want to laugh and have a good time. So when he gets back to to his press, to his crew, they say, if you want to make this movie, you should just make it. Now that you've been in jail, you kind of see how that part of society lives. You should make your brother where art thou. And he says, I've decided I don't want to make this movie anymore. I'm just going to keep making comedies because we're in a depression and people just want to laugh and they want to have fun and they want to forget about their problems. So now this journey has taught me that I should just keep making comedies because it improves people's lives. And then that's the whole movie. What did I think of this movie? I enjoyed this movie. I thought it was really good. My only concern for this movie was when I read the tagline for the movie, it said something like, famous record producer loses his memory or wants to live amongst the homeless and gets into a bit of a pickle when he loses his memory. And I thought, okay, this movie is basically going to be about a guy. He wants to make a drama, and then very soon in the movie he loses his memory. It's like it's like The Majestic with Jim Carrey, where he loses his memory. He tries to go through the whole movie to find out who he is, and at the end he does, which this movie wasn't at all. He loses his memory for like 5 minutes in the movie, and then that's it. Then he remembers who he is. Besides that, I thought this movie was really good. I really like in the beginning how they try to really tug with the idea of are people who are going through hard times, do they want to see a comedy or do they want to see a really depressing movie? Now, me, for example, if I had to choose a comedy over The Grapes of Wrath, which was also done during the Great Depression era, I would choose The Grapes of Wrath any day. I love movies that are depressing, and I love movies that are like dramas and that really tug at your heartstrings at the end, really make you think about life and about what other people are going through. That's my kind of movie. A lot of the comedies I've watched up until now from these early eras, I haven't understood. I didn't understand them, but the dramas, spot on. I understood them right away. I knew what they were going for. I knew what they were doing. So comedies for me that I've watched so far from this era are more like situational comedies or comedies that are funny about things from those times that I didn't really get or I didn't understand. A lot of them had to do with people being drunk and drinking, and I didn't really appreciate that kind of comedy. But the dramas, spot on. Love the dramas. Love all those type of movies. So that's my kind of movie. But this movie, it really... at the end, it kind of takes a side, but during the movie, it kind of deals with that idea of what do people want to watch, comedies or dramas, which I really thought was a great premise for a movie. I haven't seen this type of movie before. I thought it was really, really well done. The comedy parts are pretty funny. There are some parts that have been done so many times in movies, like the part where they're in the trailer and it's bumping up and down and things are flying. I didn't necessarily find that funny. I appreciate at the time it was probably really funny, but I don't think that type of comedy has aged well. I thought that Joel McCrea was great in this movie. I've never seen him in any movies before, but I thought he was really good. And Veronica Lake, I thought she was a very good leading actress as well. I'd never heard of these two actors before I saw this movie, so I thought it was really well done. I wish they would have given her a name instead of just calling her the girl, because I feel like that kind of, sets aside her acting performance, and it doesn't really, give any credit to what she's doing when she doesn't have a name. But I thought she did really well. The drama scenes at the end where he's in the prison and where he's living in the camps, I thought that was really good. The scene that I talked about earlier where he asked, how do you feel about the labor situation to the people, the tramps on the train? I thought that was great. I thought that was hilarious because you're not expecting that kind of joke. With the camper, you're expecting for it to go like that, but you're not expecting him to ask that kind of question on a train. And it's the unexpected stuff that I find funny, the things that I see coming and that it's obvious it's going to happen. you don't find that stuff funny, but the unexpected stuff is funny. And I really like the idea that his crew wants to follow him through the whole thing, and that they are really, really against this. And the crew being against this in the beginning was hilarious when they start talking about how he doesn't know what a person who is poor goes through. I thought all that was funny. The movie was paced really well. The homeless camp stuff, I don't know. I still felt like they were joking around a lot and that they weren't really like living the kind of life that he wanted to portray in the movie. And then when he gets to the prison, I don't really feel like that is a good example of like what the average poor person would see in their life, because the average poor person isn't necessarily in prison. Like, sure, he had a very rough go at it when he was in prison, but, you know, it's two different worlds. And I don't really feel like he had enough time living the poor person life to really be able to understand it. Even, like, at the end of the movie, I still feel like maybe he had a better idea of what people go through, but I feel like just doing it for a day or a couple days, you don't really get that sense of dread that people live through, that sense of fear that you don't know where your next meal is coming from, that sense of fear that you don't know how you're going to take care of your children because maybe they're with you. There's a lot that people go through, and I think it takes a certain amount of time over a certain amount of months or even years of living like this to really understand how hard and how rough this type of life is. And I really don't think he ever saw that. So at the end of the movie where they say, you know, you finally accomplished what you wanted, you should make this movie, I don't really feel like he did. I feel like there was a lot of time in the beginning where they were focusing on the comedy bit, where they were trying to keep him away from that kind of world and trying to shield him and trying to help him so that he didn't have to go at it alone. They spent a lot of time doing that when really they probably didn't have to. They could have spent a lot more time with him, with the girl on his own, with them together, or just him on his own trying to live this life. And I don't really feel like the movie accomplished at the end what it set to accomplish in that respect, but I do feel like it did accomplish what it was trying to go for when it wants you to choose which is better, the playing the dramas and the hardship movies during something like the Great Depression, or playing the comedies through the Great Depression. And even though they choose a side, I feel like they left it open for interpretation of what people would prefer on their own. So in that sense, I thought the movie was great. And if nothing else, this movie for me was really good because it's a movie that makes you think. It's not just like a screwball comedy, or it's not just like a really complex drama like I felt The Maltese Falcon was. This movie gives you time to really take it in, to really understand what's going on, and to really think about the bigger picture and about the bigger subject that they're trying to discuss. And I thought that was great. So all in all, I thought this movie was really good. It's not my favorite movie of the ones I've done so far, but it's a pleasant surprise because I've never heard of it before, never heard of the actors, and all in all, I thought it was a really good movie. So like I said, it has 100% from the critics and 90% from the audience. I'm going to give it an 8 out of 10, so I give it a little bit less than what the audience gave it, but that's just because for me, I could have used more scenes, and I could have used him having a little bit more time living with the people who are who are living in hardships, so that he could better understand what they were going through. Thank you. My next movie I will be reviewing is Ball of Fire. So I hope you guys have a great day. Thank you.